Hi, I'm Theresa and this is a presentation of 10 of my best pieces I've done so far for my portfolio. So this is the first one, and I call it In Your Hands because it is a kind of like an abstract hand drawing. There are really faint white outlines of hands in different positions, if you may be able to see it from here. But it's rendered in colored pencil. I used a lot of glazing, especially on the planets, to give it kind of like a glossy, like unified feel, especially like, you know, this planet Earth and, you know, all the actual planets, Neptune, Jupiter, and the little like nebulas. Well, I called it In Your Hands because I feel like you have the power to decide what you want to do with your future, and so I literally put, you know, the universe in your hands, so hence the title. Just, you know, the universe I think of whenever I think of it as like just a place of opportunity, and it's so vast and so wide, and there's no end to it, so I feel like there's no end to the possibilities you can do if you really focus on what you want to do. My one critique of this piece is I feel like I've only done glazing in this, and there are different techniques to do with colored pencils, so I mean, I like the smooth finish, but maybe I wish I had done, you know, I don't know, maybe some like stippling or just a different technique with it. The next piece is a mixed media drawing of shoes. It is done in black pen, and there's a little bit of pencil shading here and like really subtle everywhere else. And then I have lightly added color pencil just so it's enough to make it pop. I call it These Shoes Are Made for Drawing. I'm really punny and I like that. I think it's funny. And I chose these three shoes for a specific reason. These are three of my favorite shoes that I wear like almost all the time. The sandals right here, this one and this one, they represent like kind of like my softer side of my personality, with my easygoingness and my calm temperament. The heels right here, these like funky heels, they represent like my outrageous side and my creativity. And the combat boots represent, I guess, like the largest portion of my personality, which is kind of like my uniqueness and my determination, and like my strength, you know, like morally, emotionally, and like mental strength. My one criticism of this piece is I wish I had done a better job with this sandal right here. Like, I like it, but they were so incredibly detailed. They had a lot of beading on the sandals right here. So I still like it, but I just wish I had done a better job with that. This next piece I'm discussing is a slow contour line drawing, and I've done probably like 8 or 10 of these, but this is one of my best ones. I call it sheer concentration because that's exactly what it took to make this picture. I literally sat on the floor and I sort of looked up a little bit. It's kind of like an upward perspective, but almost straight on. This is an area of my art room, our teacher's art room, and it's like one of her desks. And you just kind of stare at your subject and just draw and not pick your pen up. And I remember being really tired that day and really uncomfortable. I was wearing this costume for senior theme day, and it took a lot for me to like get this done, and I was really proud of it when I finished it. I think I really captured the essence of these objects, which is what we're supposed to do. And a lot of loose flowing lines, organic lines, and that's pretty much it. My one critique is that there are things that are out of proportion. Like when I look at it, I know, you know, certain things are not supposed to be there, or there's something supposed to be here and stuff like that, but you know, overall I think I really like it. This next piece I'm discussing is a two-fold piece, and I call it Beauties Nature. It was based off of Georgia O'Keeffe's paintings, how she did things in a series usually, and she would start with something like a full picture and kind of zoom in on one portion, and it would become more abstract as she did it. The first one is rendered in pencil, and it is an observational drawing. I set that up myself and drew from observation. And this next one is rendered in watercolor. I did do a third one, but it didn't come out so good, so I did not use it for this. Hopefully one day I will fix it and it will come out much better. I called it Beauties Nature because doing this project forced me to really stare at, you know, an organic thing like a leaf or a berry for a really long time and really appreciate, you know, how difficult and detailed it is and just how beautiful nature really is. And, you know, when you zoom in, you know, like the colors and just everything just becomes so much more beautiful, and you just really get a grasp on like how complicated nature is, and it just makes you really appreciate it. My one critique is, I guess, you know, this leaf is not my favorite. I wish I'd done maybe more darker shading right in here or right along like the center line. And I wish I had done another piece so, you know, it would look more complete. I feel like 3 is a magic number.
Action.
This next piece I did is done in charcoal, and I call it Coexist. As you can tell, there are hands. It is an observational drawing. I literally held my hands like that for, you know, however long it took to draw that hand. And I went back in later and I added shading. I will go into why I called it Coexist. Each hand does represent something. It sounds kind of funny, but I was sort of inspired by FDR's 4 Freedom speech because I was taking AP US 2 at the time. So that's what this hand with the 4 represents. His 4 freedoms are freedom from want, freedom from fear, freedom of speech and expression, and freedom of worship. So it kind of just, you know, says that everybody is deserving of all those freedoms regardless of who they are. So we have this rock-on hand that represents kind of all, I don't want to say rebels, but that's kind of what I think of, or all those people who are different, you know, or a little rough around the edges. The Live Long and Prosper Star Trek sign represents literally foreigners or, you know, immigrants, you know, regardless of what country you live in. This oddly shaped hand on the end right here, that represents all the disabled people, whether it is physically, mentally, or emotionally. And there's a little peace sign right here that represents well, your peace-loving people, people against war, or even your spiritual people. And the last one is a handgun on the top, and that represents people who are for war, you know, or in the army, or are combative by nature. And I call it Coexist because I feel like regardless of who you are, I mean, you know, you don't have to agree with any of these people, but you should respect them, and we should live together and work together and live as one.
Action.
This next piece I want to talk about is a pencil drawing. It is a surreal landscape with found objects. I call it Peregrination, and if you don't know what Peregrination means, you probably do, but it means a journey. So what this picture is, it's sort of like a psychoanalysis of my mind. The dream catchers represent my dreams and like my aspirations for the future, and the candles, like the floating shell candles, are kind of like, you know, they light up my dreams, like they're just kind of like the focus so I can see my dreams, if that makes any sense. And as you might notice, it's in a cave, it's in a really dark cave. So it's kind of symbolic of, like, I have, you know, big dreams and big aspirations, you know, hence how big this dream catcher is. But I feel like, you know, sometimes they're trapped inside of me or hidden and they're not always visible to the world. So this is kind of like a journey in my life so that I can achieve my dreams. So that's what this means. And also like reminds me that there will be like highs and lows in my future, and that sometimes I will fail and sometimes I will succeed, but to always have those big aspirations, because I know if I believe it and if I have the determination to do it, I will. My one critique of this piece is that the candle flames, like they're really tiny and kind of minuscule, but they don't look as realistic as I wanted them to be, so that's my one critique of the piece.
Action.
This next piece is actually one of my favorites I've ever done. I really like color, and painting is a little difficult, but I really enjoy it. It is a pop art painting, as you can tell, so it was sort of like an Andy Warhol curriculum we were doing right there. I call it the Weird Sisters. It is of me and my twin sister as babies. This is me. This is my sister Annie. So I used acrylic paint, and they're really flat, bright colors, and I muted some of them so we can kind of get this like baby feel because we're babies in this picture. I illuminated the lips and the eyes because I just thought it would be kind of hilarious on babies to have bright red lips. And my sister does not have blue eyes, but I do. But I made them all blue because it just shows how we're united, I guess, as twin sisters, and we'll just always be together. You know, that's a special bond that, you know, you don't really have with anybody else in the world. And I call it the Weird Sisters because we're kind of crazy, I guess, and, you know, a little unique, and that's why I kind of chose these pictures, because we're both making kind of funny expressions. They were taken on the same day my mother took these pictures. We're wearing the same outfit. but I just kind of chose crazy colors, and you know, my sister kind of looks like a punk rock baby with her hair sticking up, and I just look kind of weird, you know, holding like a bottle of lotion, just like making a face. And I think that really pretty much describes us, you know, as twins. So this piece is really important to me. It represents me and my sister's relationship, essentially.
Action.
This next piece is a self-portrait. For this project we had to take a picture of ourselves or use an old one. I didn't have any good ones, so I remember going out to my backyard to find a good place to take a picture. And it was really frustrating to find a picture because I couldn't seem to get like a good one of myself or of my face. So I remember just sort of sticking my head in a bush and taking a picture and just being like, go for it. And I did, and this is how it came out. And I really liked the picture, so I printed it out and I did a grid drawing of it, which is this. And I called it a fleeting moment just because I can never ever go back to that moment and stick my head in that bush the same exact way and come out with the same exact picture. And I really am really proud of this. I think my eye came out really well, and it's really intense. It just kind of like stares right at you, and I think that's the focal point, definitely. My one critique of this piece, I don't know if maybe it's just like my personal opinion about my face, but I just think my nose looks a little big, but that could be just me not liking my nose. And also the hair, I like the hair. I wish I had added a little more, maybe like a darker shading or like highlights in there, which like I can still do. It's in pencil, so you know, I'll probably maybe do that. And but overall I really enjoy this piece and don't really have much criticism of it. I also got Artist of the Week with it. I did another self-portrait which will be coming up next, so stay tuned. But so they came as a pair and they're Artist of the Week. This next piece is the second self-portrait I did, and it goes along with the first one that I just showed you. It's just sort of like a creative style of the same picture. I call it She Spawns Herself. That might be a little explanatory, as it seems like I'm kind of growing a tree out of my head that's growing another me out of itself, and if that makes sense. There's a lot of things I want to say about this, so I hope I say it coherently and articulate enough for you guys. So it is done in mixed media. This is watercolor in the background, and the faces are, I did them on paper and then I pasted them on foam board, so it would give it kind of more depth to the picture. And the face is done in Conte pencil, which is like a pastel pencil. And if you notice the eyes, they're done in little tiny mosaic pieces, and that was a lot of fun to do. I love working with like collage work and mixed media. It's so much fun for me. I call it She Spawns Herself because I'm a teenager, so I'm at that point in my life where I'm like trying to figure myself out, and like I don't know where I fit in, and like all this angsty stuff and everything. So this bigger face, which is kind of like the focal point, is kind of like who I've always been, or you know, what people have expected me to be and what I've, you know, done for them or behaved the way they wanted me to. And I just feel like as I've gotten older, I'm starting to figure out who I really am. So that's what the smaller face is, and you know, as you can see, it's not full grown yet, so I'm still going to figure that out eventually. And the trees are sort of like represent like my ideals and my beliefs, and you know, just who I am and like my thoughts in general. And the trees are very similar because that's not going to change that much. I think it's just more of how I'm going to portray myself and how I'm going to act on my beliefs is what's going to change. And the faces are also the same, exactly the same, because I will probably not change that much physically. I'll still be me, but just more of myself, if that makes sense. And kind of like a funny little thing about this is my nickname is Tree, because my name is Theresa, so I mean, it may have been subconscious that I did trees, but I just kind of like trees in general. So, and trees are like, you know, growth, and you know, but they die but they come back again, so I really like that idea of circle of life. But so that's kind of why I did trees also, because my name's Tree. And the background is kind of ambiguous, and I left it that way. Just because, you know, it sort of looks like I'm floating in either water or the sky, you know, whatever you want to perceive it as. And it kind of, you know, it's kind of like what adolescence is and teenage years are like. You know, you're just kind of floating through this and from group to group, and you know, trying to figure out where you really are going to settle down. And you know, that'll probably continue into my 20s, you know, maybe even my 30s, but I'm ready for that journey. And this is probably my favorite piece up to date. I got Artist of the Week with that other self-portrait, and I don't really have much of a critique of it. I am really proud of it. The one thing I will say is this eye is kind of bunchy. Like, it it's like almost like a bump. Like this one's a little more subtle of a raised bump, but this one's like super bunchy, so I could have been more careful with that, but that's really all I have to say about that. Well, I hope you enjoyed my presentation. I am currently taking a portfolio class, a studio art class at my school, so my portfolio is constantly a work in progress. By the end of the year, I will have around 24 pieces, so this is just kind of like the beginning of my portfolio. And if you ever want to see anything more, well, if I'm applying to your school, you'll probably have my contact information. And I will probably send a follow-up because I want you to see how I improve and how I get better. And well, I really hope you liked it, and have a good day.